Spider-Man: No Way Home, Ryan. Marvel gives us our third movie of the year. Even though this is a Sony movie, we still get our Marvel. We had Black Widow, we had Shang-Chi, now we have Spider-Man.
You're forgetting Eternals.
Oh my God. Well, yeah, of course I'm forgetting Eternals. So we're getting our fourth Marvel movie.
Just saying.
When last we left our intrepid wall crawler, at the end of Far From Home, he was exposed by Jonah Jameson. He was in a predicament. We literally pick up exactly where that film left off.
Yes.
He's with MJ in a crowd, and Times Square, Jonah Jameson is on every freaking big ass screen, trumpeting that Peter Parker is Spider-Man. His life kind of goes downhill from there. It's really hard. They don't want to spoil stuff. They don't want us to spoil stuff.
No, well, and I don't want to spoil.
And I don't want to spoil stuff either.
I redacted half my review, and
you went through it and redacted it.
I put in yes, and I have sections where I just say redacted. So yeah.
Let's try the stuff that we know. Let's talk about what we know. If you've watched a trailer, it's not a spoiler. I finally was exposed to a trailer, which I tried.
I noted that there were things that were in the trailer, but I still redacted them just in case.
Right. Well, it is no secret that Doctor Strange is in this film.
Yes.
That's not a spoiler. It's not a stretch.
Sure.
There's no secret that Doc Ock is in this film. He's on the poster.
Correct. Correct.
There's no secret that Green Goblin is in this film. He's on the poster.
Well, I guess not really.
There's no secret that Electro, who's on the poster, is in this film. Those are not the end of the people that are in this film.
Nope.
But
tip of the iceberg.
Tip of the iceberg to you. That's why this is going to be a really short review. If we stay well clear of spoilers. So let's talk about what we do know. So everyone's life is upended because anyone associated with Peter Parker is now associated with Spider-Man. That is May, that is MJ, that is Ned, that is Happy Hogan.
Yes.
That is his school. Everyone. He seeks help from one of the only people he thinks that is around that can help him, and that is Doctor Strange. How Doctor Strange helps him, we won't go into great detail. But he tries to help him.
And then gets flustered.
Well, Peter flusters him.
Yeah, Peter just can't shut up.
Right, as he often doesn't. I believe Tony told him to zip it at least once or twice or 12 times. And he still failed to zip it. So yes, things happen. We encounter people. Doctor Strange says, I'm going to fix it. Peter
doesn't like the
result or the projected result.
Well, Aunt May plays Aunt May who's very much a humanitarian who thinks with her heart rather than her brain. Yep. Kind of persuades young Peter to do something that he probably shouldn't do. Not because it's necessarily the wrong thing to do, but because it's the dangerous thing to do, or there's more downside that the possibility, pulling off what he wants to do is unlikely.
Yeah.
So he's actually creating making a situation a lot worse to try to make it better.
Yes. And as any movie where you attempt that, it gets worse before it gets better. And it's debatable whether it's actually better by the end of the film. There's a lot of actors in this that you have to balance. There, because it's like, because you don't necessarily want them to be a glorified cameo, nor do you want them to overshadow Tom Holland,
correct,
as Peter Parker.
Well, yeah, and the problem is this is a Spider-Man movie.
Yes.
So this isn't so it needs fundamentally it needs to be about Spider-Man.
Yes.
Even when has a cast of you could probably do this movie from Doctor Strange's perspective. I
was watching it, and my thought was in Homecoming, Doctor Strange is in this film, he's filling the role that Iron Man did in that, where he's like not really a mentor, but he's just kind of this mostly benevolent overlord that just kind of drops in from time to time into the film, to either guide and or sternly correct young Spider-Man. Yeah. But I actually think Doctor Strange has more screen time and more interaction than Robert Downey Jr. did as Iron Man, and I think that's more a function of Robert Downey Jr. than it is Benedict Cumberbatch. That's just an outside thing. I think Cumberbatch was more open to it in light of things that were going to be coming in the future, and I will leave it at that.
Well,
otherwise, I'm going to start getting close to things. Sure. But no, so he's there, and he plays that role. So yeah, you could conceivably have. You probably could have made a solid hour 30 from the point of view of Doctor Strange with this exact same story scenario, without changing too much of what Peter Parker does.
And I would contend that if there weren't so many other characters, they may have still given more time to Doctor Strange. They almost just can't afford to give him any more time.
Exactly. So yeah, but you have to. His absence needs to be logical, which it is.
Yeah. And surprising, to be honest with you,
and really cool.
Yeah, I mean, I was genuinely impressed by how often they did things that I wasn't really expecting.
Yeah, that they handled all of the disparate elements very well, and then they handled those interactions also very smartly. They didn't mostly smartly. There's a couple clunky bits, but and not film ruining clunky bits. There's just a couple, but I mean, there's a lot of moving parts, and eventually you're going to get a clunk.
And to be totally fair, or to be honest, I found the first half of the film to be I wasn't entirely in or out, if that makes sense.
No, yeah.
It took. I had to see how far they were going, or where they were going, before I was able to go, okay, all right, I'm in now. But it did have to, there was a time, early on that it was, I wasn't entirely convinced that I liked the movie. Which I think is fine. But again, it's because they were introducing all of these people and all of these, and it's and they do it economically. I joked before seeing the movie that you didn't really need to see all the movies unless you wanted to understand the reviews.
Right.
I don't completely agree with that. I think that now I would say that if you want to really get everything out of this film, you need to have a pretty solid working foundation of the previous trilogy and
duology.
Duology, whatever it is. Yeah, I think you need it to get the full effect.
I don't know that you need an in-depth understanding.
No, but I think
you have to be passably conversant.
you have to at least, I mean, if you haven't seen them, there will be aspects of, and as I put in, like, my review is, well, why is that guy crying? Why is this moment emotional for him? Doesn't really seem to be that emotional, or
Right.
what is the significance? And there are things scattered throughout, the movie that I feel like are really nice nods to
Yeah.
the best of what came before.
Ryan, that's amazing. That is amazing that you just said that, because it's totally applicable. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, that's yeah. But no, but I think the cast from the previous films, the Ned, MJ, Peter triumvirate.
Yeah. Well, and that's
good.
the problem too, is because they have to have them as well, because this
Yeah.
is their senior year. They're going into college. That's part of the story. So you're getting introduced to all these people while having to continue, the core, their story.
Yep.
So and then that includes Aunt May, that includes Happy. It is such a sprawling sort of thing that this I think it maybe would have been better if they did a series where they could provide, I don't know. I think we've been spoiled too when it comes to series, because once upon a time there was no way to get the main actors in a series.
Right.
Like, that just would never happen. And now that we're having series that actually have the main actors, we're getting a little greedy, in the sense of, oh, why didn't they just make a 6-hour version of this? So
Right.
which really wasn't possible 10, 15 years ago.
Yeah.
But the way things have changed, so why couldn't they make a $500 million TV series?
Yeah. Well, because streaming still isn't that profitable, because we never see the numbers. But I get your point. It just wasn't really feasible.
There was just so much they had to do, and I think that they went through it as quickly and as economically as they could. It just
there's
doesn't
just a lot there.
There's a lot there, and it doesn't necessarily make for great cinema. It's fine, but it wasn't. I think all of us going in kind of. This one feels a little bit different for some. I don't. Maybe it's because it's the third. We don't really have any idea what's going to happen with the character, because we know too much about contracts and whatever.
Right.
And whatever. There's a lot of factors that I think that went in. With additional pressure, with Black Widow, we need kind of, it is what it is, and and Eternals was brand new, so there wasn't huge expectations, and Shang-Chi was new, and so, but this is
like the last gasp of what we know.
Yes. And
yeah,
we're
no,
about to
I
end.
get it.
So there's an element of, and I don't, is this the last time we see Tom in this role? And I don't think so.
I thought I heard that there, or at least there's a story out there saying that no, there's another trilogy that they have with him. Sony's going to do another 3. Now, is that true? I don't know.
I don't know.
At one point, Sony was going to, or what? Disney was just going to buy Sony. That story was out there just to get all the Marvel people back, which is garbage. But you're like, well, it is Disney.
Yeah.
So you don't necessarily put anything past them. So to hear a story that Sony's got another 3 with Tom, it's like, well,
and Sony has also said we don't know what's happening next.
Right. So
which is as much garbage as maybe the
right.
They have ideas, but
yeah.
But there's a certain pressure going into this film, and I don't know if it was you that said this better not suck.
I did. That was right as the lights were going down. I said this better not suck.
Yeah.
It did not suck.
No, but but there is that additional elements, there that because if it does, then what?
Well, you know what? I didn't say that before Shang-Chi, and I didn't say that before Eternals.
No, because you can recover from those.
Exactly, but it's like it would be like Endgame. This better not suck. You know,
Yeah.
it's this obviously not quite as big as Endgame.
Well, yeah, we
Although
can't
in
go out
some
on this.
ways, you know,
Yes,
uh, but
it's
no,
got
yes, like I
some.
said, this
Yeah.
better not suck.
Yes.
I've tweeted this a couple times, or this stat, and posted it a couple times. I Last night when we saw this, I put 100 miles on my car because it's a 100-mile round trip to that theater for me. It was worth all 100 miles.
Yeah.
So, your mileage may vary.
My
But
mileage is
yeah,
probably half that, but I mean,
right.
it
But
still is.
the royal you out there, your
Oh,
mileage
well.
may vary. But no, I found that 100 miles to be well worth it.
Well, I think what happens is there's a point in the film where it gets past all the introductions, gets into some of the more fun aspects, and there is arguably a section of this film that is as good, or as any other Marvel movie that's been made. It just starts off a little rickety.
Yeah, well, to be fair, his life is becoming rickety for that whole opening segment. Yeah. So yeah, to be fair, so the story's going to be a little rickety too, because everything's rickety. But no, it's I don't think no one should be disappointed with this. I honestly believe that. I don't think anyone should be coming out of this unsatisfied.
Yeah,
unless it's really, I wanted more of A, B, or C.
Well,
you just can't have it.
Yeah, I am nervous about what comes next.
But
that doesn't necessarily have anything to do. And here's again, the problem is we know some of the behind the scenes stuff. We know, that there's a loose relationship that could end at any time between Marvel and Sony, and
yep.
And there are implications at the end of this film that don't exactly what. If you go in nervous, there's nothing that's going to make you feel like, oh, well, I have nothing to be nervous about. I think and I think actually here's the strangest thing about the film. It in many ways captures what I loved about the original Sam Raimi films with Tobey Maguire. Mm-hmm. It's actually improves upon the it's more of what we thought we were going to get with the Amazing Spider-Man,
right?
And all of this, because I'm like MJ and I can't possibly be a positive person, and that's a joke in the film as well, but I can't help but think, oh yeah, Sony's going to screw this up. Sony is going to screw.
You know what you have with Sony, I have with Fox Television and science fiction shows.
Probably, yeah. So I mean, I just well, exactly. But it's just that, okay,
this is going entirely too well.
Yeah, there's something about this because you've made a movie that reminds me why Sony wasn't, of the mistakes, of the successes and also the mistakes that Sony made. Right. And it's all like foreshadowing and whatnot, and so there's, it's a weird feeling, and I think part of it is I really, if I had liked Venom or the Venom sequel more, I may not be as worried.
Right.
But to me, they're not even on the same plane. Like there's Spider-Man films, and then the Venom films are like two, levels below that.
Right.
And the fact that these things they're supposed to converge at some point really troubles me. And what really makes me nervous is that the Venom films have been successful.
Right.
And success tends to make Sony do dumb things. Yeah, well, they get overconfident and forget, or they never understood why certain things were working.
Right.
With the Sam Raimi films, it was because he had this kind of overarching story, and he had things planned out, and he kind of knew where he wanted to go, and he knew where he wanted, the third film to be, and then move into a fourth film. And Sony said, we really like the fourth film. Can we somehow, slide that into 3? And they started to mess with the plan, and, didn't trust the person who had gotten them to the point where they were successful. And then what do they do? Oh, we screwed that up. Let's start over. Right. Rather than, we screwed that up. Why don't we try to fix it? It was, we'll start over. We can do it better this time. Well, they didn't.
Well, On that note, because this conversation is going to go in a lot of ways, and I want to have them right now because we're in the zone. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to end this review of Spider-Man No Way Home, because we literally cannot talk about anything else without spoiling it for you. But I think it's safe to say that we agree that you should be okay with this movie.
Absolutely.
No one should be disappointed.
There is a large section of this movie that is as good as the Spider-Man film has been.
And none of it is as bad as Spider-Man films have been.
Have been, yeah.
Right. So there you go. So that it. We're done. At least they let Jon Watts direct all 3 films. So they did have the same director across 3 films, which is nice. Yeah. So that Spider-Man No Way Home, this Friday, December 17th, it will be on every screen in your multiplex, more than likely. But if it's not, and you can't get in, go see one of the other films that opens this week, like Nightmare Alley that we just talked about in a previous episode. So check that out. And there are other films that are worth seeing. So, if you can't get into Spider-Man when you want to, consider seeing one of the other quality films that are currently playing around you. So that is it. There's going to be an episode of What the Fuck Was That, which is what we're about to talk about as soon as I wrap this up. So watch for that. I still won't make you pay for it because I'm nice like that. But until you listen to that, stay safe, be good. Don't fight people at the theaters. That's rude. And for God's sake, don't be a slob when you leave the theater. The people are trying to clean up after you. So till we talk to you again, I'm Mark. That's Ryan. Bye, Ryan.
Right, see you.
We'll talk to you all later.